Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going over a full card prediction from a stylistic standpoint, from a skill set perspective, and we'll also be analysing things from a betting perspective for Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. UFC Vegas, we're back in Apex, back in a small cage. And yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So of course, before I get down into the breakdowns, we are a betting channel here. I want to make sure you guys avoid a lot of the pitfalls I went through. So make sure you guys have a bankroll, money set aside for betting purposes and to be able to conduct your betting business. Recommend the staking strategies. You don't want to risk mad quantities of units and setting yourself up for failure and heartache and leaving yourself vulnerable. So make sure to personally, I risk between 0.25 and 1.25 units on my bets. Also keep in mind, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm trying to grind the UFC betting markets with day trading here, in and out, trying to accumulate profits over time, which then we can compound, increase our unit sizes. And yeah, the betting process is an ongoing battle, always analysing our fights. The beginning of the week, you might lean heavily towards one fighter. And then by the end of the week, you discuss your fights with a few close associates. Shout out BJ Penn 85. And you might end up changing your opinion on that particular matchup. So enough of the boring stuff. Let's get right into the breakdowns. So we got Costa versus Shayilan. Now, of course, Shayilan was caught up in the James Krause scandal. Free James Krause, best gambler in the world, innocent until proven guilty. Jokes aside, so Costa, he is a southpaw style of striker, Muay Thai style of base. He's got emphasis on kicks such as teeps and a roundhouse kick. Good footwork and movement and agility allow him to evade these strikes. When it comes to his boxing, he's got a very, very nice straight left. But classic Muay Thai style where the kicks are the emphasis for the striking style. Costa also has very effective knees in a clinch, which adds another, tool set to his striking arsenal. When it comes to his grappling, the grappling skills are present, but I wouldn't say it's his strongest asset. Against Garcia, he could hold his opponents against the fence and take the back briefly. However, his overall offensive grappling appears to be kind of mid-level, I'd say. He showed resilience in his fight against Moises, working his way back up to his feet in both first and the second round. Judice, on the other hand, he's a heavy-handed boxer and he's known for swinging wild punches. His stance leaves him quite vulnerable to low kick because he's quite heavy on it. So that could play a factor in this matchup against another kicker rope. And then when it comes to the cardio aspect, Shah tends to slow down as the fight progresses. This was evident in his fight against Brown, where he started fatigue after the first 3 minutes. And similarly against Garcia. Now, he's got a wealth of experience. He's got a record of 39 and 11. Now, when it comes to his grappling, he's actually a decent grappler. He's a capable offensive grappler with good takedown entries and control. His grappling can be an asset, and he chooses to mix it up with his striking. We'll go to paths to victory here. Shah should close the distance, look to land some heavy hands, and then incorporate his grappling to keep Costa guessing and possibly control where the fight goes and have some success on the ground. Costa, on the other hand, he needs to stay out of danger, use his footwork to avoid the heavy hands of Shah, and then utilize his superior kicking game to wear down on Shah and manage the distance. Then he needs to use his defensive grappling to work his way back up to the feet and defend the takedown attempts. How they match up, and from a prediction standpoint, Costa, I think I have to pick Costa here. I think he's going to be able to outkick Shah, keep him at range, keep him at bay. And I think he has good enough takedown defense at a get-up game to work his way back up to the feet if taken down. Confidence level is going to be a low to medium level confidence on this pick. I just see Costa winning a competitive striking decision. Now, from a betting perspective, the current line appears fairly accurate to me, with Costa being a slight favourite. Now, live betting perspective, watch out for Shah's gas tank and look for him to possibly fatigue. So next fight we have here, we got Julia. You know what? I don't even want to butcher their names. So I don't want to embarrass myself, So I'm just going to call her Julia. So Julia, she's got constant pressure, fights very composed, will keep coming forwards. Throws a wide range of attacks on the feet, volume pressure approach on the feet. I'll say more than like a, like power puncher. I would say she's like an okay grappler, mid-level, nothing too special, but she's not like terrible either. She had a fight in Dana White Contender Series against Jasmine Judice, and she got kind of out-physicaled and barely dominated in that matchup. When we go to the Josefine side, she has strong striking fundamentals, and she has a kickboxing background and a kickboxing style of attack, and she's a capable grappler. How these two match up, I think Josefine is the better skilled striker. I think she has better technique. I think she has more power on the feet, and I think she has good enough defensive grappling to keep this fight standing. So it's going to be a low confidence pick on her because I could easily see a competitive fight. With the judges, it goes to a decision. You're kind of flipping a coin, right? So from a betting perspective, unless the odds get better, I'll probably at this current moment leave this one alone. But I think this one likely goes to decision. So I'll be curious to see what the over 2.5 rounds is. I imagine it's going to be quite juiced. So yeah. Now, next fight we have here, we got Westin Wilson versus Jeka, again, Saragih, I think it is. So when we go to the Jeka side, he's mainly got a striking style. He looks to counter strike and then blitz forwards with wild hooks and a left roundhouse kick. He has a good right low kick as well. He looks to have some power in his hands. He knocked out Lucas Fernandes and he's knocked out a few other guys. He definitely gets worse and tires as the fight progresses though. And he's got a poor ground game and he's weak off his back. And he doesn't really look to work his way back on his feet if he's controlling on the ground. He's been facing low-level guys and low-level competition apart from Lucas Alexander, which turned out to be a decent win, in my opinion. Now, Westin Wilson, he's got a karate stance of style. His style reminds me of I say this with all due respect, a poor man's version of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's got a hands down low style. He tries to fight long, utilizing kicks such as low kicks and side kicks too. Unfortunately, it's very stiff. Not the most athletically gifted fighter in the world. He has tall man defense. He has some offensive grappling. You can get takedowns, but he's not the highest level grappler. Now, Wilson, similar to Jeka, can crush into, apart from when he was faced up against those two Brazilian killers, Brito and the other guy's name skipping my mind, but brutal matchmaking by the UFC there. Wilson's probably going to want to keep this fight at range, probably look to blitz forwards with attacks. And I think it would be wise for him to mix up some grappling too. Jeka's going to want to keep this fight standing, look to close the distance and land on Wilson, or he's going to look to counter strike and then land on Wilson when he's coming in. How they match up, I think Jeka's going to land the harder shots throughout the fight. And he's going to connect on Wilson and possibly knock out Wilson, which I think is more likely, if not win a decision. With all due respect, this is a low-level fight. But now I might regret saying this, but I think Jeka is a level above Wilson, who I don't think is UFC level. So low to medium level confidence on Jeka here. Now, from a betting perspective, I would have Jeka as a favorite. You have to have him as a favorite, but it's hard to get super, super duper passionate about betting on Jeka. So next fight we have here, we got Fernandes versus Judice. Now, when it comes to Judice, she had a competitive fight in the Dana White Contender Series. She took that fight on short notice too. She showed good movement. She flowed well with her kickboxing style. decent punches, decent kicks as well, good knees in the clinch as well. Obviously, she's only 3-1 record, right? So you just don't have a lot of fighting experience, so that's something to keep in mind. There's only a couple fights of footage on her and film on her, so it's hard to get a super strong read on her style. Fernandes, on the other hand, she's a southpaw striker, powerful left roundhouse kick, powerful. Throws with power when it comes to her boxing too. She does have weak takedown defense and defensive grappling vulnerabilities off her back. Keys to victory for both fighters. Judice needs to use her footwork and strike in to keep Fernandes at distance. She should use her kicks and jabs to kind of score points and avoid getting into a brawl with Fernandes. Well, Fernandes is going to want to land powerful strikes and potentially look to land a knockout blow. So how these two match up? It's going to be the power shots of Fernandes, in my opinion, and the physicality of Fernandes versus the volume approach from Candice. Fernandes has more fighting experience, which could play a factor. But I'm going to pick Candice here because I think the value is on her. I think the line's too wide. I just see this as a competitive striking fight in the women's MMA division. So from a betting perspective, I think betting Fernandes out at odds of 1.33 is out of the picture. I could easily see this fight being a competitive striking decision. So I do think the value is on Candice. I don't know if I'll get to the betting window with it just because of the unknowns and do still have a lot of question marks and yeah. But because of the value, I'm going to pick Candice here. So next fight we have here, we got Adam Fugitt versus Josh Quinlan. Now, Fugitt is a southpaw. I see his style more of a jack of all trades type of fighter than like a skill technician in one particular area. On the feet, he mixes it all up with his kicks, his boxing, and he also mixes things up with his grappling as well. I say he's like a pretty average fighter everywhere. Now, Josh Quinlan, on the other hand, he is a boxing style of striker. Utilized as a high guard. He's pretty stationary. He's flat-footed. He throws singular power shots compared to like combinations and volume. And he doesn't have the best footwork to close the distance and land his boxing. So you often find that he struggles to land his shots and land his attack. He's a capable grappler. If he gets taken down, he can work his way back up to the feet. And he has some good timings and offensive takedown entries. How these two match up? I think this is just going to be a close, competitive striking fight. I'm going to have to slightly lean towards Fugitt here. Low confidence though. I think he's going to land more volume and mix things up with his grappling. While I think Quinlan's going to look to land a big power shot. Betting perspective, I see why the lines are picking. I think the odds are fairly accurate, but I'm going to have a slight lean towards Fugitt here. 55-45. But yeah. Next fight we have here, we got Nate Maness versus Jimmy Blick. Now, Maness, he's got a boxing style of attack. He's mid-level fighter in my opinion. He's been facing some high-level guys though, like facing Umar Nurmagomedov and Tagir Ulanbekov. Like that's some rough matchmaking. You can get controlled, you can get taken down, and he likely kills himself to make 125. But facing Tagir and Umar, that's got to give you some valuable experience and improve your skill set. Blick, on the other hand, I feel like he's just a guy who's been declining. To be honest, he retired and he came back to the UFC, and he's not really looked like the same fighter since. Blick's style, he's mainly a submission grappler. He doesn't have the strongest offensive grappling game to take fights down to the ground. His striking is just not that effective at all. Bad technique. He's slow, very stiff, and he's obviously not comfortable on the feet. And these two match up. And from a prediction standpoint, have to go with Maness here. I think he's just going to be a much more effective striker in the spot. And I honestly think Blick's looked beyond dreadful since returning from retirement. So I'm going to have to pick Maness here, medium confidence. From a betting perspective, I agree with Maness being a favourite here, but it's just hard to get super duper passionate about odds of 1.225. But yeah, I had to pick Maness in this spot. So we got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. This, in my opinion, is probably the best fight on the card. Now, Tagir Ulanbekov, very well-rounded fighter. He's working with the Russians, such as Khabib, Islam, and being surrounded by those copper guys, those killers, that's definitely going to help improve and elevate your game, right? And I think he honestly looks better in his past 2 performances. He's a good striker. He's got good striking fundamentals on the feet. You know, jabs, crosses, and teeps and low kicks are his preferred methods of shot selections. When it comes to his grappling, you know, he comes from a combat sambo background, high-level grappler, strong offensive grappling skills and defensive grappling too. Has good grappling control, top game, submission game, and can land ground and pound too. Van, on the other hand, he's a young, talented fighter, mainly a striker, high pressure, aggressive style of striker. You know, looks to overwhelm his opponents. Mainly looks to throw boxing shots on the feet. And he throws in combinations and he lands 9 significant strikes per minute, which is absurd. I'd say Van's like an okay defensive and defensive grappler, but his striking is definitely a strong suit for his style. You know, keys to victories for both fighters. Now, Tagir is going to want to utilize his reach advantage, stay out of range, and not let Van pressure him, and then look to mix up his grappling. Van's going to want to pressure Tagir from early, close the distance, and look to outstrike Tagir with pressure while attempting to stop the takedowns. And if he does get taken out, work his way back up to the feet. Now, how do you see match up? And from a prediction standpoint, you know, I think Van's a young, talented fighter with potential, and I do respect him a lot. I think he's going to go far in the coming years in UFC. But I think this just might be a little bit too soon for him. I think the grappling advantage might be too big for Tagir here. And I think Tagir could keep it competitive on the feet. I don't think he's completely outmatched on the feet. And I think Joshua Van is a lot less physically imposing. Tagir is like a big 125er. Honestly, he could probably fight at 135. So, yeah, it's going to be a medium to high level confidence on Tagir Ulanbekov. From a betting perspective, I'll see why the money's been coming in on Tagir. And I think he was a good bet around 1.57. No, but I did bet him myself for the money team guys. And, you know, Van's a young, talented fighter who I do respect, but from a betting perspective, I just have to go with Tagir here. And unless you guys think Van can, you know, negate the takedown attempts and outstrike Tagir, but yeah, give me Tagir in a spot, medium to high level confidence. So next fight we have here, we got Armfield versus Hiestand. Now, Hiestand on the feet, striking wise, he looks to fight on the outside, use lateral movement, and to evade close quarters combat. He prefers using kicks because it helps him fight longer and avoid danger. He's got a wrestling style of grappling. I'd say he's like a good grappler, not world class, but he's not awful either. I do worry about his durability a bit because Dana Baccarat hurt him multiple times. Of course, Dana is a big power puncher. Garcia dropped him in round 1, and Ricky Tershos dropped him in round 3. But the guy has heart and he has toughness. Armfield, he's got a boxing style of attack. I say he's like a good boxer. Defensive grappling looked good against Katona, but Katona is more of a striker, let's be real. On the feet, how do you see match up? I think Armfield is likely going to be the aggressor here, looking to get his boxing going, while Brady is going to fight on the outside, looking to stay out of danger and mix up his grappling. I prefer Armfield's style of striking much more because I think it's much more effective, and I don't think Brady is the strongest offensive and most effective wrestler. I'm going to pick Armfield low to medium level confidence. From a betting perspective, I think the odds are accurate, but it's just hard to get super passionate about betting Armfield. Odds of around 1.53. Even though I think Brady's a little chinny, I think this one likely goes to a decision. So, next fight we have here, we got Asu Almabaev versus Jose Johnson. Now, Asu, very well-rounded fighter, skilled on the feet, strong offensive grappler. This is where he truly shines on the grappling. Good takedown entries, timing, speed, sets everything up with his wide, unorthodox style of striking, including spinning kicks and heavy boxing shots. When it comes to striking, he looks to load up heavy, and he throws unorthodox attacks to set up his grappling. Excellent control and transitions on the mat. Is heavy on top. He can fight for 3 rounds, but does seem to fatigue. Becomes less explosive. This is mainly because I think he puts everything into his shots. Now Jose is moving down to 125 for this fight. He's already a huge guy. Long-ranging striker, jabs, crosses, teeps, kicks, tries to fight long, uses height and reach advantages. And I also like how he closes his distance on his opponents too, mixing up his striking attack. Good high guard, good head movement as well. Good knees in a clinch for when he closes the distance. And I like how he can mix up his range of attacks. In the fight against Chad, he did a good job of reversing the transitions and having some dominant grappling control, but he can get taken down, get control on the ground, and that appears to be his weakness. But he seems to acknowledge his fact, and he's been working hard to shore up this aspect of his game. For Johnson to win this fight, he wants to keep the fight standing, look to negate the takedowns, make Abu work and outstrike him. Abu wants to stay out of danger, then set up his grappling, have a matchup. I think Abu's likely going to get his takedowns going because I do think his takedown game is elite, and he's a natural 125er. And those guys at 125 tend to be more skilled. The lower the weight class, generally more skilled, more technical the guys are. And Jose does seem to have a weakness when it comes to the defensive grappling game, and Abu is a strong defensive grappler. So medium level confidence on Abu. Ben perspective, I can see why Abu's the favourite here with his perceived advantages when it comes to the grappling. Again, it's just super hard to get passionate about betting this price. Jose's a big guy, so maybe Abu struggles to take him down and control him. And Jose Johnson could probably win a lot of these striking exchanges, but I'm only saying that because you're having to lay basically 4-1. And you have to have a lot more answers and questions answered. When you're laying this type of price, you've got to be more careful, but I'm still going to have to pick Abu here in the spot medium level confidence. I think he gets his grappling going and wins likely a dominant decision. So next fight we have here, we got Miles Johns versus Douglas De Silva de Andrade. Now Miles Johns on the feet, smooth boxing, explosive style striker, good footwork to go in and out, and his right hand is definitely his money shot. Good defensive grappler, good on top. Heavy, good defensive grappler as well. Say defended takedowns against like Gibson, Argueta. Good in the clinch positions too. When it comes to his flaws though, he does slow down as the fight progresses because he puts 100% into everything, into all his strikes, and his footwork becomes much less effective. But he can still swing heavy with his boxing attack. Andrade, he's got a stocky build. He's a powerhouse. He looks to land heavy on his opponents. Looks to throw singular power shots instead of combinations. Mainly got a boxing attack, but you can throw some good kicks in there too. Andrade is extremely tough. He's fought some high level guys inside the UFC. In my opinion, guys, this is a tricky fight to predict. I can see why the lines are close. I'm actually kind of struggling to pick a winner here. I just think it's a very, very well matched fight. One thing to consider is that Douglas De Silva Andrade is 38, 1 month away from 39. Even though we are in the age of no USADA, you do worry maybe one of these days he just kind of falls off a cliff. But I guess I'm going to pick Miles Johns here. This is what I might, change my opinion on throughout the week. But yeah, from a betting perspective, I agree with the line being a pick'em. I'm kind of struggling to get a strong read on this fight. Next fight we have here, we got Timothy Kumba versus Lucas Almeida. So when it comes to Kumba, good striker, good speed, good technique, nice straight punches. Also got good lateral movement, has kicks, but his boxing is definitely his preferred method of attack on the feet. His style is to be fast, sharp, clean, land his shots, and then circle back out. Capable defensive grappler, I'd say, and an offensive one too. And his fight against Oki, I believe, is a underrated fighter, so I don't really hold anything against him for losing that fight. He managed to have some grappling success in round 2. Almeida, on the other hand, he's mainly a striker too, comes from a kickboxing background, uses both his hands and legs to mix all his striking up. So he's like a good striker, weak defensive grappler and ground game though, but he's faced a high level competition. How these two match up? I see this being a competitive striking fight. Kumba is probably going to be the faster striker here, so that's why I'm going to have to pick him here. I'm going to have a slight lean towards him. Definitely going to be a low confidence pick from a betting perspective. Tricky fight. I could easily see this fight playing out 50-50. Therefore, the value is probably on Almeida, but my gut says Kumba is going to end up securing a victory. So maybe if the line improves, I might jump on Kumba here for a small to medium type of wager. For the co-main event of the evening, we got Ikram Alaskarov versus Antonio Tricoli. Now, Ikram, he's a solid, powerful striker when it comes to shot selections, boxing and teeps, and I really don't like how he does a good job of gliding in and out. When it comes to his grappling, comes from a Samba background, good defensive grappler, capable of taking down his opponents and controlling them on the mat, and looks to fish for submissions, and you can also look for ground and pound as well. Tricoli on the other hand, first thing that stands out to me is that his last fight was 2.5 years ago. He was a very, very low level opponent. And his previous fight before that was almost 5 years ago, guys. And that fight got overturned because he failed a USADA test. When it comes to his style, BJJ style of grappler, but there's barely any recent footage on him. I definitely feel like this guy's probably juicing. He was even fighting at welterweight at one point. Prediction standpoint and from a betting perspective, I think this is an easier fight for Ikram here. I think he can outstrike Tricoli, outgrapple him, and win quite dominantly. I think this is actually a step down in level of competition from going from the knees. So it's going to be a high-level confidence pick on Ikram Alaskarov here. And from a betting perspective, the betting line reflects that, right? At odds of 1.10, which is around -1,000. So it's hard to do something with that kind of price. But yeah, give me Ikram in the spot, high confidence, outstrike, outgrapple Tricoli to get a dominant victory. So we go to the main event of the evening. If you guys are getting value from the video, you guys are enjoying it, all I ask you guys, please, is to leave a like. It super duper pumps me up when I see the likes go up and motivates me to keep producing this content because it lets me know that you guys enjoy it. And also I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in to the end. I super duper appreciate it, guys. There's a lot of podcasts out there and you're sitting here listening to me, talk about these fights from a picks prediction standpoint, from a betting perspective. So I'll never take that for granted. And I also want to thank everyone who's part of the money team and being a part of my community. I super duper appreciate all you guys. And enough of the boring stuff. Let's get into the main event. So Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira on the feet. Perez has a strong fundamental approach on the feet. He's got solid boxing fundamentals, throws in combination, got a boxing style of attack, and he also uses a nasty low calf kick. His defensive grappling looked good against Melquizael, and he did get subbed in previous fights before that. He got subbed by Pantoja, who's a high-level BJJ black belt, and Davison Figueiredo caught him in the guillotine. But apart from that, we haven't really seen too much recent footage of his defensive grappling aspect of his game. Now, he's a good defensive grappler. He can secure takedowns and have grappling success and secure submission wins. One thing that I do worry about with Perez is that if you go on his Tapology record, he's had a lot of cancelled fights, right? A lot of cancelled fights. Maybe someone who suffers from performance anxiety or fighting in general, or maybe he wasn't taking the game as serious during that stage of his career. Tatsuro Taira, on the other hand, he's a high-level grappler, high-level wrestler, good takedown entries and timings, high-level control, transitions on the ground, and also very heavy on top. Can go for submissions and ground and pound on the feet. He has good striking, but his strike is definitely not as refined as his grappling game. He will use feints. He likes to use a lot of kicks, and he likes to mainly stay out of danger to avoid heavy striking exchanges. How they match up, and from a stylistic standpoint, and from a betting perspective, even though Perez is a well-rounded fighter, this is going to be a striker versus grappling matchup, in my opinion. Perez is going to want to keep this fight standing and look to defend the takedowns, while Taira is going to want to stay out of danger on the feet and look to get his grappling game going. It's a big step up in competition for Taira, and it is his first 5-round fight. But it's going to be a low confidence pick on Tatsuro Taira here, but I feel like Perez is very, very much a live underdog in this spot. From a betting perspective, I think Taira should be the slight favourite, so I think the line is a tad bit wide in my opinion. But with the potential upside that he has, I think the line and the books and the betting public has him as a slightly bigger favourite. So yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I really, really do super duper appreciate it. Make sure, good luck with the bets this weekend, guys. And yeah, let me know what you guys are picking, what you guys are betting. And remember, long-term game, good bankroll management, good risk management. Don't get too high, don't get too low. And yeah, thank you once again. Yeah, appreciate it.